All right, hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis, the show that is just right in the thick of things. Unqualified to the greatest degree, but just throwing out takes anyways, because who cares? Everyone's got a mic nowadays. Why not throw my hat in the ring? So today we got college football edition, Tuesday. What else is new? I got my coffee right here, pretending it's 6:30 a.m., not 6:30 p.m. That is delightful. That is just good. Nothing like a good cup of joe after work. I am dead inside. I am slowly dying, as we all are, just inching closer and closer to death each day. But, you know what? We got some college football to talk about. It was a hell of a weekend. Let me tell you what. Not for gambling. I went below 500, if only by a fraction, by a hair there. NFL saved me on Sunday. That's a different story for a different time. But you know what? It was a crazy weekend of college football. Upsets across the land, teams that were looking like they were in trouble. At some point, this little volcano is going to blow, but for right now, we just saw tremors. A little spout here, a little spout there, getting some seismic activity, but feel like we're on the cusp of some crazy stuff happening as we get here into October. And with that, let's just get into this thing, shall we? Let's go through week 6 of college football. And I apologize for the weird vocals for that intro, or weird acoustics. That's probably the word I was looking for. I just realized my mic was back there behind me on the desk. You may have even been able to see it in the frame. I can't see the frame right now because I'm looking at the website with all the scores on it. But yeah, sorry about that. I just, dumbass moment there. Decided to put my microphone back behind me to my left. So, it is what it is. Let's get through all this in, keep it a tight hour 15 here, and we'll just get her going. We'll just do it a little bit differently today. I'm going to go through the top 25 matchups first, then circle back around to the individual conferences, check in on some unranked matchups that I missed throughout the day on Saturday. Some on Thursday, some on Friday too. We got midweek action now, folks. So we got games. 7 days a week now. If you're talking NFL and college football, we got college football starting on Tuesday, going through Saturday. We got Sunday, Monday for the NFL. It is, especially if you're a degenerate gambler, it's like Christmas every single day for you, folks, but I digress on that front. Let's just go down the list here. I'm going to skip forward a little bit as far as the prioritization of the games is concerned on this ESPN scoreboard. I'm going to talk about the game of there were a couple really good games, but the most consequential game for the playoff standings, Oklahoma goes into the State Fair in Texas and wins versus Texas 34-30 on the back of Dillon Gabriel. A fantastic drive on the final play, not the final play, but the final drive of the game. And this was his coming out party. He's put up some big time numbers against a lot of subpar opponents. Hadn't quite put it all together against an opponent like Texas. Get this for his stat line though: 285, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 113 on the ground, 8.1 yards per attempt, and a touchdown. Also a touchdown through the air. Can't remember if I said that or not, but got my bases covered. And no turnovers on the day. No turnovers against a Texas defense that is legit this year. They have a very, very good defense in a way that they simply have not in quite some time. But Texas goes down with, I think it was like a minute and a half left, maybe 2 minutes, something like that. I was at work, so I can only, follow on the scoreboard because life is pain, existence is suffering. You all know what I mean. But yeah, I think they went down with it's a minute and a half left, something like that. 30-27 lead, I want to say it was. Or it was tied. It wasn't tied, I know that much, because it just, that's just not how this whole thing worked. But I think they go down. I gotta look at the game cast because I'm totally out of my depth right now. But, yes, they get a field goal with 1:17 left to play to take a 3-point lead, 30-27. And very next drive, Dillon Gabriel takes Oklahoma all the way down the field in 5 plays, gets the game-winning touchdown with 15 seconds left in the game. The graph of win probability here is, you can tell when there's a big old dudunch, like it's a heartbeat monitor at the end of the game. You could tell some fun stuff happened there, and it was It was all Oklahoma most of the way if you're looking at the win probability, and it just kind of swung towards Texas there with a minute 17, and all of a sudden just whoop right back up to 100% when Dylan Gabriel went down, got that touchdown. Just an electric game. The final Big 12 chapter of this matchup. It'll keep continuing in the SEC, of course. How could you get rid of this matchup? Even in this new era of soulless profit motivation, there's profits to go around when you got this matchup on TV. This is must-watch television every single time. And the question I've been hearing on the college football shows I've been listening to over the course of the last couple days is, does this mean Texas is dead in the water? I can definitively say no. If they went out and presumably beat Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game, they're still going to make the playoffs. Everything that they aspire to is still right in front of them. I don't think this is a season where we're going to see four unbeaten conference champions going into the playoff where it's just, okay, Texas is the odd man out there. I think there is going to be some chaos here through the back part of October. Cocktober is upon us, folks, and you never know what's going to happen other than South Carolina is about to catch on fire. We all know that. They own the month of Cocktober, and never you forget that. The Cocks own the month of Cocktober. But sticking with the subject at hand here, there's enough chaos ahead, I think, in store for these teams that are vying at the top that Texas will be right in it when it's all said and done. I think this more says something to the legitimacy of Oklahoma than it does to maybe the fraudulence of Texas. Texas beat Alabama on the road in Tuscaloosa, and they've just absolutely murdered everyone since except for Oklahoma. They've proven all they need to prove to me so long as they don't trip up another time. If they get another loss somewhere in here, that's a sticky wicket. But if they win out, they're still a playoff team. Oklahoma, they have put themselves in position that they too kind of have everything in front of them. They're still undefeated, 6-0. I don't know what their new ranking is in the AP. I don't particularly care at this point either. They're only 6 games into the season. They still got half the season left to go, and it's the tough half if you were wondering. So still, lot of games to be played here, but Oklahoma going down to Texas, down to the Texas State Fair, beating the Longhorns in the way that they did, in dramatic fashion like they did. I mean, just must-watch television, like I said. It's something that's very impressive. And Dylan Gabriel just vaulted himself into the Heisman conversation at the very least with that performance as well. If he keeps on this pace, keeps putting up big performances, he may be right there in New York when it's all said and done. Long ways off, and I hate having Heisman conversations 6 games into the season because they're utterly worthless until we're like 9-10 games in, really. The picture doesn't even really start to flesh itself out until the final stretch of the season, like the final month of the season. That's when you really know who the Heisman finalists are probably going to be, down to last 6 candidates or so. Right now we've got a dozen guys who could possibly win. I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking like Jaden Daniels, Bo Nix is up there again, Caleb Williams is up there again for another year. I mean, we got guys all across the landscape right now that could conceivably put themselves in the conversation. I mean, Drake May right there as well. North Carolina, we'll talk about them in just a bit. That's a team that's rolling that we got to have maybe a few questions about, but they might be the strongest team been there since Mac Brown has come to town. But there's that's all to say, Dylan Gabriel is in the conversation now. Hopefully he stays in it going forward from a Dylan Gabriel and Oklahoma perspective. If he does, it means Oklahoma is right in the thick of the playoff conversation. But that's really what this game did. It put Oklahoma in the thick of the playoff conversation. Very early playoff conversation, mind you. But the playoff conversation, nonetheless, they're a hot team right now. Brent Venables has got this team playing to heights that a lot of people did not think was possible after the way they played last season. I mean, the defense looks night and day from what it did last year. The front seven, them in Texas kind of followed the same mold of just get a bunch of guys in the front seven and figure it out from there. That Oklahoma defense is humming right now. Don't be fooled by the 30 points they gave up to Texas. Texas is maybe the best offense they're going to face until they face Texas again in the title game of the Big 12 Conference, if they end up getting there. It's a lot of chaos ahead in store, I would imagine. Oklahoma is legit, though. They've done enough in this game alone to tell me, okay, they are a legit contender this year. They are, 9 wins That's probably the baseline now if you're talking about recalibration of expectations. It's kind of what I was thinking a little bit coming into the season, like 8-9 wins. That's the baseline, though. I think from here, you're thinking after you win this game, 6-0, everything you want is in front of you. You got to basically win out. I don't think a one-loss non-conference champion is going to get into the playoff this year. If that being, well, with the caveat, if Texas gets another loss during the season, but they end up winning against Oklahoma in the Big 12 title game, barring any like crazy chaos up top where all the top 4, 5, 6 teams have 2 losses, that would probably knock out the Sooners at 6-1. That would probably knock out Texas. The Sooners would probably sneak in just like TCU did last year. But everything they want is in front of them right now. Oklahoma is a really good team this year. They are legit. They have a long way to go, but they have put themselves right in the thick of the conversation. There are so many teams in the thick of the conversation right now. A couple we're going to talk about here in just a second, but no one impressed more on Saturday than Oklahoma. That's a fact. They look really good on offense. They look much night and day better on defense than what they were last year. It's going to be an interesting down the stretch. Also, Quinn Ewers, by the way, 31 of 37, so not bad on that front. 346, not bad on that front. 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble. Not going to cut it in these big games. They didn't deserve to win with that stat line at quarterback. Hell, if you take out the 2 interceptions, probably had a little bit better statistical day, and they probably would have won. But you had those 2 interceptions. Ultimately, the Sooners win. Jonathan Brooks had a big game as well. I mean, they didn't have a bad game, which is what makes this that much more impressive for the Oklahoma Sooners. They got Texas at maybe not their best, but a very, very good Texas, and they just went out there and beat them. It's exciting to see in the Big 12. Unfortunately, this is the last year the Big 12 is going to have them, so do with that information what you will. Someone will rise up to take their place, but it's going to be difficult to replace either of these powerhouses. Just the rich get richer. The SEC is getting 2 really good teams that are firing on all cylinders going into next season. Let's keep it moving, though. I've already talked about that one. Pretty much squeezed the juice, all the juice that I can out of that. Hit on this one quickly. Georgia, Vegas just hung out a big old, just a slab of meat on the end of that pole right there. They were just like, hey, come on, take it. 14.5. Georgia's favored by 14.5. Kentucky just absolutely annihilated Florida last week. No way Georgia wins by 14.5. They haven't been playing well all season. And I'm sure many suckers took that bet. I was not one of them, thankfully. But Georgia, basically from the opening kickoff, showed you that you made a mistake if you made that bet. They absolutely dominated Kentucky at home. This is pretty much the first ranked matchup that Georgia's had all year. So that stadium was rocking. They were ready for blood, and Georgia gave it to them. 51-13 the final in this one. I mean, Carson Beck, by the way, he had a breakout performance. There's no other way to describe this. This was a breakout performance by Carson Beck. 80% completion percentage, 28 of 35, if you're looking for the exact numbers. 389, 11.1 yards per attempt, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Just utter dominance through the air in this one. Hell, even the backup quarterback, Brock Vandegrift, he got in on it too. 5 of 7, 46 yards, a touchdown as well. Threw for 5 touchdowns as a team, did Georgia in this one. Rushing-wise, as a team, no one guy stood out particularly, but as a team, went 173 yards on the ground, 5.6 yards per carry. They were just moving the ball any which way they wanted. Kentucky on the other side, 55 yards on the ground, 2.3 yards per carry. Devin Leary went below 50% completion percentage. Got 2 touchdowns, so good for him. Check the scoreboard, though. Didn't necessarily seem to matter too much, but... And half of his yards were to Dane Key. That was pretty much it. Outside of that, this was both sides of the ball, utter dominance from Georgia. We are starting to see them round into form. And right now, man, this Georgia team have not been playing well to start the season, but if we get Carson Beck like that for the rest of the year, they do have some things to figure out in the backfield right now. I mean, Daijun Edwards, Kendall Milton, one of those guys is probably going to have to step up if they want to continue to be competing at the highest level. That backfield may end up coming back to bite them, but if they get Carson Beck playing the way he's playing, they can absolutely win a third straight national title. No question in my mind. He was sharp. He was elite in this game. And if they keep getting that, boy, the ceiling is the roof, as the great Michael Jordan once said. Oh, and by the way, Brock Bowers, just another, leisurely 7 receptions for 132 yards and a touchdown. What else is new? Also, Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, fun name, 99 yards, a touchdown on 4 catches. Really, also Ra Thomas, miss you, buddy. Probably for the best that you're not at Mississippi State this year, though. He got a touchdown on this one, and an insane touchdown at that. It did not look like he should have made the catch. The ref, in fact, called it an incomplete pass. Then you see on the replay, clearly he gets the foot down inbound. It was a circus catch in the end zone. I mean, good for Ra Thomas, getting some good tape out there, playing on the big stage. Miss you, buddy, but like I said, again, probably for the best that you're over with Georgia now. That's probably the best thing you could do there for your career. But right now, Daijun Edwards probably needs to be the guy that you want to step up. I mean, 51 yards receiving, 54 yards on the ground, a little over 100 on the game for the all-purpose statistics. That's the guy. That's probably the guy. Him and Kendall Milton need to find a little bit of a balance here where they kind of like pick up the slack on the running game. And they did well on a per-carry basis, but you're going to need, sometimes Carson Beck is not going to have his best stuff, and in that case, you're going to need a running game to fall back on. We'll have to see if Georgia continues to play at this torrid pace into the meat of their SEC schedule here. I mean, I say the meat of their SEC schedule. They basically just play Tennessee. Tennessee is their last remaining like big time test, I want to say. I'll check just to make sure. But yeah, I mean, Florida they got at home. I guess they got Ole Miss at home too, so that should be interesting. At Tennessee though, on the road in Neyland, that's probably their biggest hurdle yet on the schedule. Ole Miss can't be overlooked either. They're playing really good football at the moment, but Tennessee on the road is probably the last time I would say they got to. I mean, really, those back-to-back weeks, Ole Miss and Tennessee will tell the tale of the Georgia season, whether they make the playoff or not. And of course, the SEC championship game. It's a cupcake schedule kind of through the first several weeks of the season, but towards the end, it is a little bit backloaded to where they will have the resume to get in addition to the cachet from having won the last 2 national titles. But just like Oklahoma, even more so, really, everything they want is in front of them right now. They just got to keep on winning. Carson Beck keeps playing like this. I have no reason to believe they'll stop doing so. Let's keep it moving now. Michigan just absolutely smeared Minnesota in this one, 52-10. The second play from scrimmage, I want to say, Minnesota threw a pick 6 to Michigan. That basically set the tone for the entire game. Minnesota, I mean, they're not a terrible team. I mean, they're not a good team by any stretch of the imagination. They make some boneheaded plays all the time, it feels like, but Michigan just came out there. I mean, they're a bowl team, Minnesota, and Michigan just came out there and just throttled them to death, pretty much. Just snapped their neck, put them up in a little ball of viscera, and just whoosh, tossed them away. I don't know what the hell that whole metaphor was, though. I just, sudden violence in the brain. You never know how that seems to work. But either way, Michigan, they are absolutely rolling this season. Even with that backfield, that vaunted backfield, there's maybe not doing the best so far. Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, not quite coming out guns a-blazing just yet. But as a team, the defense is playing out of their mind. J.J. McCarthy's playing efficient right now. He just completed 70% of his passes, 11 yards per attempt. 1 touchdown through the air, and that's all they needed him to do. Just didn't turn the ball over and was efficient. That's pretty much it. That's all you really need from him. And Michigan's going to win most of their games, if not all of their games, doing just that. They just absolutely throttled Minnesota in this one. I don't want to spend too much time on the game, but just know that Minnesota's quarterback, Ethan Kaliakmanis, which probably one of the funnest names in all of college football. I digress. The only quarterback who played threw for 52 yards, 3.5 yards per attempt, 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, and also 3 yards per carry as a team rushing, even though they're rushing 39 times. They were just absolutely running into a brick wall pretty much every time. Michigan just hurtling towards that Ohio State matchup right now. Of those two teams, Michigan certainly looks the more impressive. Ohio State not to be trifled with, though. They had their own test this past weekend, but they're still every bit as good. That big game at the end of the season, I hope they never change it from November, man. It is a must-watch game, and it is even more so a must-watch game with the implications that fall on it, with not only the Big Ten title game, but playoff implications as well. Boy, that is going to be a dandy. Also, the Penn State game ahead of them as well. It's going to be a loaded backstretch for the Big Ten East, and it's going to tell the tale of the playoff pretty much, not just the Big Ten championship game, the playoff as a whole. That's 3 teams that are, right in the thick of it, and I think a maximum of 2 is going to make it. I can't see all 3 making the playoffs unless there is some wholesale chaos everywhere else. But right now, Michigan rolling. Ohio State beat Maryland 37-17. Maryland kind of had them on the ropes in the first half. It looked like they were going to make a game of it. They, tied 10-10 at halftime. Hell, even in the third quarter, really only down 3 heading into the fourth. Then Ohio State just took off pretty much. That not an impressive game on the ground for Ohio State. Less than 2 yards per carry, actually. Hell, even if you take out the quarterback rushing statistics, there's still only 82 yards on 29 carries. That touchdown as well. Their leading running back, Chip Trainum, 20 carries for 61 yards. Not a great day on the ground overall, but sometimes you just got to run the old fuck it. Marvin Harrison Jr., let's throw to him the entire time. That's pretty much what they did, and he put the game away for him, man. Kyle McCord ended up with 320, 2 touchdowns, 11.0 yards per attempt, and Marvin Harrison had a little bit over half of that, 163 yards, 8 receptions, a touchdown to boot. Cade Stover also had a touchdown, a 44-yard. I don't know if the 44-yarder was a touchdown or not, but yeah, he had a 44-yard completion and a touchdown. Just a dominant performance. No turnovers on the day as well for Ohio State. That probably ended up being the difference down the stretch for him. Talia Tagovailoa, once again, facing a tough Ohio State team. Really good coming into this, but man, he just ran into a juggernaut. What else can you say? 2 interceptions on the day, less than 5 yards per passing attempt, 1 touchdown. Just not going to cut it when you get into these big-time games. Ohio State, though, they look impressive. They don't look as impressive as Michigan right now, but I'll tell you, Maryland is better than any team that Michigan has played thus far on their schedule, and Ohio State has already gone on the road and beaten Notre Dame. Hosted Maryland, who was a 5-0 team, probably the best team out of that Big Ten East that's not named Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan, and just pulled away in the fourth quarter, just outclassed them talent-wise. So they're doing everything you want them to do right now. They got a pick 6 from Josh Proctor in this one as well. The defense, in a way that it has not been in recent years, is really the straw that stirs the drink for Ohio State right now. They're playing out of their mind. Tommy Eichenberg, classic Ohio State white linebacker, 13 total tackles, 6 more than anyone else on the team. Josh Proctor, in addition to that pick 6, got tackle and a half for loss. JT Tuimoloau, 1.5 sacks in this one. You could just go on and on with this. They didn't really have crazy numbers on defense, but they just shut down Maryland down the stretch, and that's really all you want them to do. Again, just hurtling towards that matchup late season. But both of those matchups with Penn State and Michigan, things are going to get very interesting as we get deeper into Cocktober and into November. I can assure you of that. College football is the best, man. I absolutely love this sport. It's fantastic. All right, let's keep it moving down the list, though. Florida State beat Virginia Tech. Nothing to talk about there. 39-17. They took care of business. Didn't look fantastic, but a win is a win and a blowout is a blowout. So they have not really done anything to bump themselves down in the standings. So, keep it moving from there. USC needed 3 overtimes to beat Arizona, 43-41. I was not on the over in this one, shockingly enough, and they shattered the over at that. I mean, I guess they needed overtime, so they didn't shatter it, quote unquote, necessarily, but ended up down the stretch just absolutely obliterating the over-under in this game. And the Arizona quarterback, Fifita? I don't know how to... Noah Fifita. He's a freshman. He's a freshman over there with the Wildcats. He's played well in a couple stints here in the starting lineup, but he had 5 touchdowns in this game to 1 interception, 300 yards passing. 25 of 35 on the day as well, 8.7 yards per passing attempt. Arizona had their starting running back, Jonah Coleman, go for 143 yards, 6.5 yards per rushing attempt, too. It was just not a dominant performance. This is just USC doing what USC does. Lincoln Riley, really, if you want to look at a macro sense, doing what Lincoln Riley does on the macro sense of things. I mean, Caleb Williams, by the way, didn't have a great passing game. Still got 3 touchdowns on the ground, 4 touchdowns total on the day. He is, number 1, and it's not even close as far as the number 1 overall pick. The only possible thing that could bump Caleb Williams down from number 1 overall is just blatant and unapologetic racism. I don't know what else. If you'd like a white quarterback instead, Drake May is sitting there at number 2. If you like to keep your job, Caleb Williams is sitting there at number 1 with a bullet. He's a fantastic player. The problem is they don't really have a Caleb Williams of the defense on this team. I mean, who do you go to? They didn't get, Jamil Muhammad got 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss in this one. Outside of that, still gave up 41 points in this game. No one's really jumping off the stat sheet, really. Even Caleb Williams had a fumble lost in this one too, so he wasn't perfect. He was just spectacular in what he did for the most part. But this, I've said it before on this podcast, I'll say it again. Now, USC is the exact same team that we've seen last year. Same exact Lincoln Riley team that we've seen year after year, basically since he took over from Bob Stoops. This is the story about Lincoln Riley teams. How long do we have to keep doing this song and dance before they finally replace Alex Grinch with somebody who can consistently coordinate a defense? I don't know. That's going to be the limitation that holds them back, not only on the national stage, but in the Pac-12. I don't see them... I see a path, obviously, for them winning the Pac-12. They're still undefeated. They have the best quarterback in the entire country and an offense to boot with that. But, not Oklahoma, Oregon and Washington, who are probably the other 2 teams that are in that top tier, of the Pac-12, they have defenses. They have better defenses than USC and comparable offenses with really good quarterback play from Michael Penix and Bo Nix. I don't see USC winning the Pac-12, let alone getting to the playoff this year with that defense. And unless they just snap their fingers, turn in the circles 3 times, and then say the magic incantation that gets them a defense here in the next couple weeks, I just don't see it happening. Also, by the way, before I move on from this game, Jacob Cowing, running back or receiver for Arizona, caught 4 of the 5 touchdown passes from Noah Fifita. Had 10 receptions for 88 yards in this game. Just a dominant performance with those 4 touchdowns. And those are the type of performances that you see kind of week in, week out against this USC defense. It is why the over in this USC game this week is one of my bets for the weekend. We'll get to that at the end of the podcast. I got 2 bets for you at the end of this thing. You just stick around till the end to find out what they are. But we're getting on the board early in this one, and hopefully it works out better than it did last week. But I digress on that front. You'll just have to wait and see what that ends up being. USC, though, my opinion has not changed one iota from the preseason to 3 games in to now 6 games in. They are who we thought they were, and let us move on from there. What do we got next? Well, first off, I need a sip of this coffee right now, you know? A little bit above room temperature, but still just delightful, just delicious. Yes, Louisville. Listen, I don't know if I framed it this way when I was talking about it. I think Notre Dame, I stayed away from this game because I just wasn't sure. Notre Dame was facing a big-time test on the road in Louisville after a couple emotionally turbulent weeks between losing to Ohio State at home, barely beating Duke on the road, going on the road again to Louisville, which that stadium was absolutely rocking. College kids will be college kids, unfortunately, and Louisville came out there and absolutely shocked Notre Dame, 33-20 to the final. Just dominated Notre Dame in this one. Sam Hartman had 3 interceptions. Jordan, the running back for Louisville, he had 143 yards on the ground. Jawar Jordan, just a freak physical specimen, 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, one of the best running backs in the entire country right now. Jack Plummer didn't have a spectacular day, but he didn't turn the ball over. That's the main thing. That's really the one thing you can take away from this. He did not cause them to lose the game, which is all you can really ask for when Jawar Jordan is running the way that he was. But this was just utter dominance. Both sides of the ball, maybe not both sides of the ball, but running game, defense, Louisville absolutely dominated this one. And that's not exactly what you think of when you think of Jeff Brom, that high-flying, high-octane offense with Purdue, Rondale Moore, the boys. You understand what it is when you hear Jeff Brom's name. You think passing offense. They ran the ball 40 times in this game. And like I said, Jawar Jordan had a big game in this one. Louisville, 6-0. Just climbing the rankings, and I mean they're right in the thick of things with the ACC. Possible dilemma down the road because Louisville, North Carolina, FSU do not play each other during the regular season, so real chance they could all just go undefeated during the regular season and lead to a real conundrum for tiebreakers to the ACC title game and a possible playoff berth. We'll save that for further down the road, though. For right now, Louisville is rolling, and they faced a real cupcake schedule to start the season. Wasn't really sure how good they were. Still not really sure how good they are in the grand scheme of things. This was a favorable situational dynamic for them after they just got an emotionally sapped Notre Dame team. If they played this game again on a neutral field with, say, after a bye week for Notre Dame, I think Notre Dame may actually win this game, but Louisville caught them in a good spot, had them at home, emotionally drained, and they took full advantage of it. I mean, give them credit where credit is due. And now we got to start talking about maybe the dark horse candidacy of the Louisville Cardinals for going to the playoffs this year. We'll have to see if it happens. I gotta take a look at their schedule again and see what the resume would look like if they went undefeated. But they got Pitt next week. They should win. Duke, that is the next real test for them. They got Duke at home once again, which outside of going at Miami the second last week of the regular season, all of their toughest games are at home. I mean, they've got Duke at home, they got Kentucky at home. That's really the meat of the schedule going forward. Because I mean, they got Pitt, then Duke, Virginia Tech, Virginia, then final stretch of the season, Miami and Kentucky. And if they get undefeated through both of those games, which seems like a big if. But we'll just play along with the scenario right now. And then they get a win in the ACC title game. That's a playoff. That's a playoff team right there. It's going to be hard to bump a team like that out with that resume, even if we do think they're a little bit inflated beyond what their record says they are, or inflated because of the record. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. But as for Notre Dame, put a cork in them. Etch the tombstone, they're dead. I mean, not as far as like the season goes. They could still win out and be a solid 10-win team. Hey, maybe even be like on the outside, just a fringe of the playoff conversation when it's all said and done. Based on if they win against USC this coming week, you never know what could happen. But, I mean, after 2 losses, they're going to need some real chaos around the college landscape for them to get back into the playoff conversation. They can still make a really good bowl game, but right now, it's just not in the cards for them. I mean, it's got to be disappointed as a Notre Dame fan as well, because like I said, coming into the preseason, I still feel this way. Sam Hartman is the most talented quarterback they've had in there in a really long time. Notre Dame has a history of solid quarterbacks that are not pro prospects. I guess the only guy that would really like buck that trend in semi-recent memory is Deshaun Kaiser, but that's really just from a prospect perspective. He never really played great at Notre Dame, and then he certainly didn't play great in the NFL. He's terrible, just a bad quarterback at the NFL level. Sam Hartman, I mean, every bit as talented as Deshaun Kaiser was, and even more so, I would say, and just a better quarterback. Having a guy like Sam Hartman on your roster, having Audric Estime in the backfield as well, it just feels like a wasted opportunity, especially with that defense, too. I mean, they were gassed coming into this game, so they didn't necessarily play well, but, I mean, they had the team to possibly go on and make a run. The problem was, I mean, when you've got a schedule of, let me just go back down the list, because I went through it a little bit preseason, but it's worth restating here now. I mean, you get Navy first week, Tennessee State, then you go on the road to NC State. 2 weeks later, you get Ohio State, Duke, Louisville. Now you're playing USC. That is 4 straight ranked matchups right in the middle of the season here. And, I mean, they've still got Clemson on the road towards the end of the season. And, I mean, I guess they kind of coast in outside of that, but man, this is just too much of a gauntlet schedule sometimes. And if they gotten through this undefeated, they would be, I mean, just a shoe-in sort of playoff contender. But you can't exactly blame them for losing 2 games in this stretch. Now, if they get this win against USC, they'll at the very least put themselves in a position to be a possible dark horse candidate. But man, that schedule, just a brutal gauntlet. You lose 2 of the last 3. And all of a sudden, you're looking for a high-seeded bowl, but no playoff contention, unfortunately. That's just kind of how it goes sometimes, man. And it's, never know. Maybe there's some chaos down the road, but feels like the playoff candidacy for Notre Dame is on the rocks, and it's kind of rising for Louisville. We'll have to see how it goes down the stretch. Schedule is still favorable, even with the ranked matchups that they have in store from them going forward. Should be a dandy of a race in the ACC down the stretch. We'll get to a little bit more of that here in just a bit. Alabama goes into Kyle Field, one of the most hostile environments in all of college football, and they beat Texas A&M 26-20. Jimbo Fisher looked like he was coaching scared at various points in this game. Decided to kick a field goal on 4th down instead of going for it on 4th and 1. Then has the audacity in the post-game coverage when asked about it to say, hey, if it would have been 4th and inches, I probably would have gone for it. Like that extra 1.5 feet, 12 inches, however much you need there, makes a difference. That's cowards talk right there, absolute cowards talk. Alabama just came in there, took care of business, and now this was a de facto SEC West championship coming in, and I still feel that way. I think Alabama, I don't think they're going to roll to the very end of this. I think they're a very good opportunity to win the rest of their games in the regular season and set up a matchup with presumably Georgia in the SEC title game once again. What else is new? But I mean, Jalen Milroe in this one, he's starting to heat up right now, boys and girls. I mean, 321 through the air, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception on the day, 9.7 yards per attempt. Jermaine Burton had 197 yards receiving, 2 touchdowns as well. Isaiah Bond got into the action with 7 receptions, 96 yards and a touchdown. I mean, everybody could get, well, not everybody. I think basically Isaiah Bond and Burton did the lion's share of the work in the passing game. But Milroe is really coming into his own there as the quarterback for Alabama. And he seems to get better every single week he's out there, and I would assume that's only going to continue. Uncharacteristically poor rushing day from Alabama in this one. That'll happen when you're facing that Texas A&M front 7. But Jalen Milroe specifically, I mean, 8 rushes for minus 31. Part of that is just being a quarterback, but he is part of his game is running the ball, and he's prolific at running the ball. So getting minus 31 on the day with all that sack yardage, it's a credit to the Texas A&M front seven. So pats on the back all around for them. They did their job. The offense just once again, what else is new, did not do their job, and you do have to wonder in the context of Texas A&M, what would this game have looked like with Connor Wigman? Maybe if Connor Wigman is in the game, maybe this game goes differently. Maybe Texas A&M is the one coming out on the other side, 5-1, vaulting up the standings, maybe making a playoff push. But now, 2 losses, one being to Bama. Bama now undefeated in conference play. It's Bama's race to lose now, and I mean, don't look now, but that Bama defense is starting to play well. I mean, they've been playing well all season, but they got 5 sacks as a team in this one. They called Dallas Turner on a absolutely bogus BS crackback block or blindside block penalty. Hate that. Caleb Downs should have had a pick 6 as well to make this a little bit more of, I mean, not really a blowout, but a more comfortable win if you're Alabama. But that Alabama defense, and we gotta watch out. Malachi Moore did get injured in this one. He's one of their top defenders, obviously. But I mean, with everything else they've got, Caleb Downs being just a super freshman out there, playing out of his mind. Dallas Turner playing out of his mind as well. Kool-Aid McKinstry, one of the funnest names in all of college football, playing well. Boygby, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but I should learn because he's really good. Had a sack and a half in this one. I mean, just guys all over the field. Some that you probably haven't heard of if you're more of a casual fan, just playing out of their minds in this game and in this season overall. Don't look now. Bama might be trending towards another playoff berth, even with the loss to Texas, which still looks like a good loss. I mean, if that's their only loss, they're going to make the playoff. I assure you of that. But a lot of season left ahead of them. This is just another notch in the belt right now. Bama just keeps chugging along. They'll probably continue to get better and better. Offensive line hopefully rounds into form at some point. That might be the thing that comes back to bite them when they face the Georgias of the world. Harold Perkins. Got to be worried about Harold Perkins. That LSU defense is just abject trash, but Harold Perkins is still one of the best defenders in all of college football. So with an offensive line that's been shaky at times this year, got to be worried about that. But Alabama, another team with everything they want still in front of them. If they win out, they get to the playoff. No ifs, ands, or buts. And I was not thinking this was the case coming into the season, but if Georgia wins out in the regular season and loses to Bama in the conference title game, I still think that you get 2 SEC teams in the playoff if Bama is winning out as well. So never know if this could be a chaos filled down the stretch. But we'll just have to wait and see, folks. We'll just have to wait and see. Texas A&M, $75 million buyout for Jimbo Fisher. And from what I've heard, that money may already be in escrow, just waiting to be used. Could be any day now. Well, not any day. They'll probably wait until after the season. But if the season keeps trending this way, would not be shocked at all if you saw Texas A&M buy out Jimbo Fisher, and that at that point that becomes the hottest job in all of college football. Deion Sanders, a name you got to keep in mind for that one, as you got to keep in mind for literally every job that comes open. But Texas A&M got some things to figure out. Alabama, not looking like a juggernaut necessarily, but looking like a team that could do some damage come postseason time. Let's keep it moving from there, though. What else we got? Washington State goes on the road. We talked about this being an upset spot coming into the game. Absolutely did end up being an upset spot. Washington State loses to UCLA on the road, 25-17. Dante Moore wasn't spectacular, but 290 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. That ended up doing the job for him. It helps when your running back Carson Steele goes for 30 carries, 140 yards on the day. That UCLA defense, though, quietly one of, if not the best defense in all of the Pac-12 right now. So that'll be one to keep an eye on down the stretch there. But I think you're going to be seeing a lot of carnage in the Pac-12, in the middle of the Pac-12. You saw it here with UCLA handing Washington State their first loss. You're probably going to see it a lot more time. I mean, we saw it with Washington State handing Oregon State their first loss. Cam Ward in this one kind of came back down to earth. You didn't expect him to, throw for 90% completion every single week, did you? But, 19 of 39, 197 yards. UCLA's been having a habit of doing that to some teams this year, man. They have really played well on that defensive side of the ball in a way that you really haven't seen from a Chip Kelly-led team in quite some time. Really probably since the Oregon days, since he had a defense that's been playing this good. Gabe Murphy, 2.5 tackles for loss. John Vaughn's had another tackle and a half for loss too. Things are starting to come together over there with UCLA. They're 4-1, by the way. They're not ranked, but they're 4-1. And if not for a pick six by Kepena Gushikin, just a good old Irish boy over there with Washington State. If not for a pick six, they only give up 10 points in this game. This defense was absolutely, utterly dominant against a Washington State team that has been utterly unstoppable on offense all throughout this season. UCLA is a dangerous team down the stretch, man, and with one loss, they could really they could upset the apple cart at the top right now. Dante Moore is probably the guy that kind of determines how far they go. He cannot throw for 290 with 2 interceptions against the USCs, the Oregons, the Washingtons of the world. But if he has clean game against those teams with the defense that's playing well on the other side, never know. Chaos has ensued, and it will continue to ensue as we get down the stretch of this season. But let's just keep it moving here. North Carolina, they host Syracuse and just absolutely beat the hell out of them. Tez Walker, free, by the way. The NCAA finally... those cowards decided to, see the error of their ways and were indignant on the way out the door. They said, "Oh, this is all North Carolina's fault." They would have, quote unquote, shown us the information and given us the correct information ahead of time, we wouldn't have had this problem, and Tez Walker would have been starting from the start. But you know what? We needed you to get some more information before we made this decision. But now that you gave us this information, we can be the good guys now and reinstate Tez Walker. Average, below average, just terrible people over there with the NCAA. Abolish the whole thing. I hate that place. Group, whatever you want to call it. I hate the NCAA, but let's not dwell on the NCAA, man. Let's dwell on Drake May. Get this stat line, man. 442 yards, 9.4 yards per passing attempt, 3 touchdowns through the air, 1 on the ground, no turnover, 1 fumble lost. We'll give them that. They won 40-7 on the day, so not really too much you're losing there with that 1 fumble loss, but just short of 500 total yards accounted for. Drake May has been everything as advertised so far this year, and he is really coming into his own. You add Tez Walker into the mix, too. You already got Kobe Paysauer, who's just a fun name to say. He had a 77-yard touchdown in this one. Nate McCollum led the way with 135 yards for North Carolina. Then you're putting in Tez Walker in his team debut, 6 receptions, 43 yards, just ho-hum helping bury Syracuse. And it's been noticeable this year that North Carolina's defense is much better than it has been in many previous years under almost said Mac Jones. Definitely not Mac Jones. Under Mac Brown. The question is, are they really that good as they seem to have been so far this year? Or are they just facing bad competition? Syracuse's offense, God bless you, Garrett Schrader, love to see you having success. But, he's not really the world beater you really fear going into a game at quarterback. That we all know that. We can all admit that and feel good about ourselves. But, and look at who they've faced so far this year. Spencer Rattler, and then they got Appalachian State, Minnesota, Pitt, Syracuse. They still haven't really beaten anybody. We're going to find out this week when they face against Miami how good that defense is with Tyler Van Dyke and the boys over there. We'll get to Miami here in just a second. What a hilarious turn of events there. I digress on that for now, but is North Carolina's defense good? Is it even possibly elite? Like I said, we're going to find out against Miami, but if the answer to that question is yes, and we've got a undefeated North Carolina team midway through the year with everything left in front of them, including an ACC title game, that's another team that's just lurking there with one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country, probably the consensus number 2 overall pick in this upcoming draft in Drake May at quarterback, a fantastic offense. You add in a defense on the other side. That sounds like a playoff team to me if they can win out. We're going to find out a lot about this team down the stretch of the year. This is probably the best North Carolina team that Mac Brown has had since he has gotten there. And it feels like they've kind of wasted Sam Howell there. They would be wise to not waste Drake May while he is in town. They seem to be doing a much better job this time around of capitalizing on what they have in the building. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do when they get into the meat of their schedule. I got to look at this schedule one more time just to see what they got coming up. They got Miami, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Campbell for whatever reason. Then they got Duke late in the season. And these final 3 games, Duke, then on the road at Clemson, and NC State to end the year. That little final November stretch there will tell the tale of their season. Also this coming week against Miami, they got everything they want in front of them. Said about a bunch of teams so far in this episode. Got everything they want right in front of them for the taking. Could lead to some awkward stuff here going into the final stretch of the ACC season. But add them to the list. I mean, just a cornucopia of possible contenders, teams that were probably good enough to make the playoffs in a year where there's really no one elite team. A couple teams that have been playing really well and are very talented, but no one elite team thus far right now. North Carolina, why couldn't they go down here and upset the apple cart, be a new team into the playoff picture in the final year of the 4-team playoff? And isn't this so convenient for the playoff committee in the final year of the 4-team playoff? There's going to be so much controversy about that 4-team playoff. They'll be like, oh man, can't wait for that 12-team playoff next year. Blech. Disgusting. Hate that 4-team playoff. Or I hate that 12-team playoff. I don't even necessarily like the 14 playoff. I was hoping for 6, but 12 is just disgusting. Hate it. And if you like it, I don't like you. That's kind of I probably like you. You're probably a good dude. We disagree fundamentally on the facts of life, quite frankly. But I'll keep it going from there. North Carolina, absolutely a legit contender this year. Congrats to Tez Walker being free. Free Aquarius Spivey next, NCAA. Unless you're cowards. Free Spivey. That's all I got to say. Not biased in one little bit towards my alma mater there. Oregon State, they won a barn burner with Cal 52-40. DJ Uiagalelei had 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think it's Damian Martinez. Damian Martinez, the star sophomore running back for Oregon State. He had 80-some yards in this game, 89 yards on 17 carries, 1 touchdown. Efficient. They had a guy by the name of Anthony Gold, who got a good game in this one. I just, I clicked on his name and then just didn't bother to see. 117 yards in the game. Didn't get a touchdown, actually. Let me just peruse the box score here to see who ended up. Yes, I knew there would be one guy that ended up getting a disproportionate amount of the touchdown production. Jack Velling, 38 yards, 4 receptions, and 3 touchdowns. That is a tight end stat line if I have ever heard one. Good for him, though. Sophomore tight end getting a big-time game. I mean, more than doubling his touchdown output to this point in the season. Now he's got 5 touchdowns in 6 games, 3 of which coming in this past game. But what are numbers even, man? What are numbers even? So yeah, Oregon State, Defense, not great. Offense, looking really good under the most generically named man in all of college football, Jonathan Smith, their head coach. Let's make Arkansas fans sad, shall we? Ole Miss beat them 27-20. It just hurts my heart that Ole Miss seems to be solid this year. But they did only win by 7 against Arkansas, so I'm not ready to say that they're this elite team just yet. I digress on that front, though. Ole Miss beat just a hapless Arkansas team on offense. Just beat them 27-20. Arkansas is now 2-4 on the season. Who's the head coach over there for Arkansas? I forget his name. It's just totally escaping me right now. I'm having a little Alzheimer's moment here at the ripe old age of 27. But head coach for Arkansas right now, one of the hottest seats in all of America, of the major conference players. Hard to see them sticking with. God damn it! I cannot believe I can't remember this guy's name. Right? I mean, it's right on the tip of my tongue right now too. It's got to be. I mean, it's not Dan, is it? I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. Let's just Sam Pittman. My God, how did I not remember the name Sam Pittman? My memory is it's an enigma. I wouldn't say it's terrible, but I remember some stupid things better than you could possibly imagine. I don't understand how it works, but here we are. Ole Miss gets the win 27-20. KJ Jefferson, I'm starting to think Kendall Briles was a good offensive coordinator, and KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders benefited greatly from that arrangement there. KJ Jefferson had 250, 2 interceptions on the day. I mean, Rocket Sanders was basically a no-show. I mean, the whole rushing offense was basically a no-show. I mean, he had 15 yards on the day on 8 carries, 1.2 yards per carry as a team. Just not going to cut it. Hell, even if you take out the quarterback rushing statistics, they still went 12 rushes for 25 yards. Just bad all around. And it's not like Ole Miss came out there just scorched earth. They had a solid game on the ground, but not their best overall. They just, Ole Miss just came out there and smothered them. This is just a sad Arkansas team. They could have won this game too. I mean, it's not like Ole Miss was just pulling away from them in this game. They had the opportunity in front of them to go out and win this game, and they just pissed down their leg. And that's, Arkansas, Sam Pittman, probably not long for that job, if I had to say. You got a get-right game coming up next week with that Mississippi State defense. They're the worst unit in the entire conference, one of the worst in the entire country. So that should be a get-right game for KJ Jefferson. We'll get to the shit show that is Mississippi State in just a minute here. But, oh man, the funniest game of the day. I don't even care what happened for the majority of this game, but Georgia Tech went into Miami and for all intents and purposes should have lost this game. They kept it close, and credit to them for keeping it close throughout the entire game. Miami had the ball, 36 seconds left on the clock, 0 timeouts for Georgia Tech. All they have to do is take a knee, and Miami walks out of this thing with a win, probably climbs up the standings even more. But what they do instead is they do a running play, which, if he doesn't fumble the ball, that's a good play. You still end the game that way. The problem is the runner did fumble the ball. Georgia Tech gets the ball back with a little like right around 30 seconds left in the game, and Haynes King throws a bomb 44 yards down the field, gets a game-winning touchdown with, I think, basically zeros on the clock. Georgia Tech wins the game 23-20 in a game that Miami, all they had to do was get in victory formation and kneel, and they would have won this game. Just an embarrassing sequence of decisions by Mario Cristobal there, the Miami head coach, and that's That's indefensible. It's absolutely indefensible. All you had the game in hand. He did something similar like this apparently against Oregon a couple years when he was with Oregon rather against Stanford a couple years back when he was still in the Pac-12. Did something similar to this, I think, from what I've been hearing, but just bad all around. And I'm not going to overreact though. There are people saying that Mario Cristobal should be fired. It's an indefensibly bad decision there at the end of the game. But you can't deny Mario Cristobal's got them in the best position they've been in since like maybe early Randy Shannon days there. I mean, like early 2000s. And obviously this Miami team's not as good as the early 2000s right now. But Mario Cristobal's got the recruiting pipeline back up and running again. He is building this program up in a way that I'm very impressed with thus far. It's just, only in college, man. Only in college do you see this level of utter stupidity at the highest levels of the sport. Building a good program over there and will not be fired, should not be fired. But what a dumb decision by Mario Cristobal to go for it, to run a running play instead of just kneeling out and winning the game. But I digress on that front. LSU, just whoosh, Kalima with my heart, ripped it straight out of my chest. I thought we had this game in the bag. I was like a giddy little rat seeing, ooh, look at that big old chunk of cheese. Let me go take that. Fuck that trap that it's on. We're going to take the damn cheese. And you know what they did? I mean, I thought at the very end of this game, I knew Missouri wasn't going to win. Obviously, they weren't going to win down the stretch there in that final possession. I mean, there's 30 seconds on the clock. They were deep in their own territory, not getting anything going. But to throw a pick six on the final real possession of the game, to cover for LSU, that is sickening. And that was the difference between us going 4-3 and us going what we ended up going 3-4 on the week in betting. Just disgusting. And I had some off-air bets that ended up doing okay for me, so I just kind of treaded water on the weekend, but just full-on disgust with this LSU team doing what they do. Hit the over if you took that one, which you should. LSU is basically an over machine at this point. I'll probably take the over on every game that they play in from here on out. Have not looked at the over for them this week, but we'll stay tuned. It might be something that comes back around on Thursday, but despite my disgust, just a good day for LSU on the road. Brady Cook, I think this was the game where he snapped his interception streak. I got to look at the game log here real quick, and this was the game where he snapped the interception streak in a 400-yard effort, season high for yards, but didn't end up winning them the game. Brady Cook still a really, really good quarterback, underrated quarterback as well. Kind of flying under the radar as far as possible pro prospects, but really playing well for Missouri, and part of the reason why they're a big threat to the East right now. Man, LSU, I can't get over it. They just absolutely ripped my heart out. Luther Burden, by the way, another big time game, 11 receptions, 149 yards. I mean, he seems like he's had double-digit receptions almost like every game this year. I mean, last 3 games he's been in against Memphis, Vanderbilt, LSU. He's gone 10, 11, 11 receptions, 32 receptions over the last 3 games. He has been playing out of his mind, over 100 yards in every single game this season, no matter who the opponent was. Luther Burden kind of playing his way, and I mean, only a sophomore, COVID sophomore though, so he's probably draft eligible. Really playing his way into first-round draft pick status right now. He's playing out of his mind. Just wasn't good enough against LSU, man. I feel like a fool. Vegas needed a backdoor cover to take my money, but take my money they did, and boy, that hurt more than any other. I mean, that almost ruined my entire Saturday, man. I was a zombie for the rest of the day at work, man. Just thinking about what the hell just happened to me. What the hell just happened? But LSU still alive in the SEC West race. They can piss in Bama's Cheerios. They've got that opportunity coming up, man. It is on the horizon, but we'll get there when we get there. And Fresno State, they decided to go out there and lay an egg versus Wyoming. That thin air, 7,000 feet above sea level in Wyoming, it is going to get you every so often, and it got Fresno State in this one. Wyoming wins 24-19, and don't look now, Wyoming's a 5-1 team, baby. They beat Texas Tech to start the year. They could very well be one of those teams that, finds their way into a ranking here. I mean, maybe not a playoff berth, obviously, but in this new 12-team playoff with a top-ranked non-Power 5 team gets a berth in the playoff, maybe they do. Again, a 12-team playoff is one thing, but taking the highest-ranked non-Power 5 conference team, even if they're like ranked 17 or like 20 or something, just a disgusting way to decide a champion at the college level. And just they don't belong on the same field as an Alabama. I'm filled with utter disgust at what this sport is becoming on a championship level, but I digress on that front. I'll leave my disgust for a different day. That is it for the ranked matchups here. Let's see how we're doing on time. 1:05 already. My goodness, time flies when you're having fun. Let's just quickly go through all the conferences here real quick. Start with the ACC. What did we miss? Boston College barely beat Army 27-24. Virginia. Clap it up, folks. Clap it up. You did it. You finally did it. At long last, Virginia has finally gotten their first win of the season against William and Mary 27-13. And it may be their last. I'll keep it moving from there. NC State got into a shootout with Marshall, but handed Marshall their first loss of the season. They win 48-41. Kind of had to come back down the stretch to do it. They were down 24-21 at halftime, just ultimately pulled away in the second half. But NC State 4-2 as well. They're not going to be contending for anything, but they could piss in some wholesale Cheerios down the stretch. We'll just have to see how they do. And Clemson, man, I woke up on Saturday morning and I just had a feeling. I just woke up and was like, you know what? I think Wake Forest might win this one. And, just place a $5 flyer on that one and, see how it goes. Wake Forest almost pulled this one out, man. I had no logical explanation of why I decided to bet on Wake Forest. Just vibes, pretty much. Just like, you know what? The vibes are high today. We're betting on Wake Forest money line. Didn't end up working out for me, but it was exhilarating down the stretch, man. I will tell you what. Excuse me. But Clemson gets the win, 17-12. Gotta love that Garrett Riley is being allowed all the latitude to run his offense. That's definitely the case over there. That's why Cade Klubnik threw for 131 yards on less than 5 yards per attempt, no touchdowns, and one lost fumble. So yeah, they're definitely using what they have in the building properly. That's probably not on a hot seat just yet, Dabo, but keep an eye on that. Just keep an eye on that. That's it for the ACC. Let's look at the Big 12-12 real quick. Kansas State, man, they are having a down year this year right now. They lost to Missouri on a game winner several weeks ago. Well, a couple weeks ago. And now Oklahoma State beats them on their own home field, 29-21. Oklahoma State, I'm not sure how good they are. I'm not really sure how good Kansas State is either. They might just be like, average, middling, if you will. But, they're 3-2 right now. Mike Gundy coaching for his job. I have to see how it works out. As I pause for a sip of this. This is cold coffee now. This is straight up room temperature coffee right now. But I'll keep this in the hand. I gotta down this, otherwise it's just gonna be sitting there being nasty. UCF, Kansas did hit that over. Thank you very much. 22-51 on the day on that one. Kansas just blew UCF out of the water. Matchup of backup quarterbacks in this one. But Jason Bean was just better than, what I know his last name is McCain. Timmy McClain. Timmy McClain for UCF, just better on the day. And Jason Bean only needed 12 passes, but when you got Devin Neal and Daniel Hishaw both going over 134 for Hishaw and 2 touchdowns. 154 for Neal, 12 yards per carry, almost 13 yards per carry for Neal, by the way, in that one touchdown. 5 touchdowns on the ground on the day for Kansas. That's what you get. You end up blowing out the team on the other side of the field from you. UCF now 3-3. Dark horse candidacy now dead in the water after an 0-3 start in the conference for the Big 12. Just not the year, unfortunately. Not having John Rice Plumlee in there, which they had him in there for a portion of the game. Ended up just having Timmy McClain down the stretch, though, unfortunately. It's just, it's not their year, unfortunately. Once Texas and Oklahoma leave, though, it will be up for grabs. There will be a power vacuum at the top. Someone's got to step into it. But, I mean, just short of 400 yards rushing on the day for Kansas in this game. 5 touchdowns, 7.8 yards per carry. The Kansas Jayhawks, Lance Leipold, this may be the last season he's with Kansas, but my goodness has he got Kansas playing well. And not even with their preseason Big 12 Player of the Year quarterback, Jalen Daniels, in the game. I mean, if Jalen Daniels could somehow just find a way to stay healthy, Kansas might be able to make some noise down the stretch in the Big 12. We'll have to keep an eye on them going forward. Might be the team that they were thinking it was towards the start of last year, coming into this year. Did that make any sense? Probably not. I'm not going to explain it, though. I've already spent too much time on this matchup. Kansas, team to watch now, into the top 25. And moving right down the list, Texas Tech beat Baylor 39-14. They got the job done. Blake Shapen had a good game, just not good enough to overcome Texas Tech in this one. They're rolling right along. They're back to 500, 3-3, 2-1 in the Big 12. So could still end up salvaging this season down the stretch. Not a whole lot to say about that one, though. Dave Aranda, I hope he sticks around Baylor, man. I hope they don't pull the plug on him too soon, because I think he's a really good head coach. I've said this before. I'll keep saying it till the cows come home. I would like Dave Aranda as my head coach if he were fired tomorrow. I'll tell you that right now. Hopefully Baylor keeps him around, but tough start to the season when they were expected to be a little bit better than this. 2-4 to start the year, 1-2 in the Big 12 thus far. A lot of season left to go, but right now they're just picking up the pieces and trying to figure out a way to bowl eligibility at this point. Man, my nose just be itching. TCU. Maybe they're just not that good this year. They go on the road to Iowa State. Iowa State beats them 27-14. I mean, just a passing clinic in this game. The guy by the name of Rocco Becht, the starting quarterback for Iowa State, went 138, 4.9 yards per passing attempt. 1 touchdown on the day, no turnovers. And that's, so long as he didn't turn the ball over, he was doing better than Chandler Morris, Josh Hoover, whatever combination of quarterbacks over there on the TCU sideline. Just bad. Just a poo-poo, stinky garbage game from both of these offenses. Good games for the running backs, though. I mean, good games for the backfields in general. Both teams over 5 yards per carry. TCU didn't get a rushing touchdown. That's really the only thing they didn't get on the ground. I mean, Amani Bailey, 152 yards on the ground. Just didn't get a touchdown. If he'd gotten a touchdown, maybe this game goes a little bit differently. But hey, shout out to the Fighting Marty Verzaks over there with Iowa State. Just chugging along. Matt Campbell maybe makes his team bowl eligible down the stretch. We'll have to wait and see. For right now, not going to spend more time on this than I have to, because we have got to keep it moving. Big Ten. Let's see what I missed over there. Nebraska. Don't look now. They're 3-3. They're 500. They beat Illinois, another team that probably should have seen them having a little bit of a down year. I mean, their entire defense basically got drafted into the NFL last year. Nebraska beats them in this one 20-7. Nebraska just, chugging right along. They get just plastered by Michigan last week, but get a nice pick-me-up against Illinois this past week. What else we got? Wisconsin, now 4-1. They beat Rutgers 24-13. Just keeping on moving. Braylon Allen, a 100-yard game in this one. A touchdown. Keep an eye on that team. That's one that, could possibly be the other side of the Big Ten championship against whoever comes out of the East. Northwestern just barely beat Howard by the skin of their teeth. Good for them, I suppose. They're 3-3, which is more wins than I thought they'd get throughout the course of this season. But hey, Good for them, I guess.
Mm.
And that's the last sip of, gulp, really, of coffee. So let's just keep moving. Iowa, another team in that Big Ten West to keep an eye on. They won against Purdue 20-14. I mean, just an abomination of offensive football. I don't think any wide receivers caught passes in this game. I'm sorry. I'm just getting a first look at the day for Iowa offensively. Brian Ferentz, just offensive genius. And I mean, obviously didn't hit on it last week, but Cade McNamara is out for the rest of the year with an ACL. So they do have to kind of, make it work with Deacon Hill here for Iowa. But this stat line, 6 of 21 passing, 110 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and gotta make sure that this is correct before I keep saying it. Yup, it's true. No wide receiver caught a pass in this game, and only 2 guys caught passes. That would be Eric All, the tight end, who, by the way, had 97 of the 110 passing yards in this game, and Caleb Johnson, famously the running back in this game. Even with that, though, even with Brian Ferentz just looking to be just woefully short of that 25-point-a-game threshold that would keep him in this job going forward. Shouts out Caleb Johnson, the running back there. Caught a pass out of the backfield, also had 134 yards on the ground, 7.9 yards per carry, a touchdown in this game. This was an abomination of offense to watch out. I mean, shout out to the faithful Iowa Hawkeye fans. I don't know how you still have a love for football after everything that the Ferentzes have put you through offensively over the last several years, but shouts out to you. You are earning your stripes right now. This is bad. I mean, Iowa though, 5-1, not a good team by any stretch of the imagination, but 5-1 just winning rock fight after rock fight. Good for them, man. Good for them. I don't want to keep watching that though. What else we got? Pac-12. Colorado barely beat Arizona State, 1-5 Arizona State team. Backup quarterback for Arizona State went for 335. Almost forced overtime, but did not. Shedeur Sanders did the patented show the watch celebration to the Arizona State student section. I mean, I don't love that you barely beat a team. Don't cover, by the way. Don't win me money, by the way. And then you go over to the student section and still showboat after just barely beating maybe the worst team in the entire conference. That's poor form, I suppose. But when you win, to the victor go the spoils. So, man, do what you want. Colorado's 4-2 now. Better. I mean, they've already kind of... That 4-win threshold was kind of where I thought they would be this year. They've already hit it. So... good for them, I suppose. What do they got coming up? Who do they have coming up? Stanford, then they got UCLA, Oregon State, Arizona, Washington State, Utah. That is the last 5 games of the season for them. I mean, granted, they don't face Washington in there, but my goodness, Arizona is probably the easiest game in there, and Arizona's no pushover. I mean, they face 4 of their last 5 opponents are ranked as of right now. Good luck. Good luck to the Buffaloes down the stretch. Get a win against Stanford, then hopefully get a win against Arizona to get bowl eligible. But man, they got some tough times ahead, folks. Tough times ahead over there in Boulder. Let's just hope that offense keeps scoring. I'll just put it that way. Let's just hope they keep scoring. Let's look at the SEC now. Mississippi State, of course. I mean, they made a third string MAC quarterback look like the second coming of Brett Favre. Hayden Wolf, by the way, is the guy's name. He threw 80% completion against us. That is the third string quarterback for Western Michigan. Threw 70% completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. the defense for Mississippi State, and they win this game. Will Rogers, by the way, also left late with a shoulder injury. No word on the severity of that shoulder injury. That's one to keep an eye on. Woody Marks left the game with an injury as well. Things to be worried about offensively, but the defense is just it's beyond putrid. Like I said, it's the worst defense in the entire conference right now. They just stink. And sure, the offense scores 41, but they win 41-28. It's one of those seasons where it's going to be a miracle if they're bowl eligible this year. That might be obvious to some, but right now my irrational fan brain is looking ahead and seeing that we've got Auburn and Arkansas on the road the next 2 weeks. I think they're both on the road. Let me check the schedule here real quick. Sorry, that was disgusting. I apologize for that, but we'll just keep it moving from here. Got Arkansas and Auburn on the road the next 2 weeks. Basically, got to win both of those two if we want to be bowl eligible, because got Kentucky at home. That's probably a loss. On the road to Texas A&M, there's probably not a snowball's chance in hell that we win that one. Then we get Southern Miss. That's probably the game. If we win against Arkansas and Auburn, that's probably the 6th win that gets us bowl eligible. And then Ole Miss, I'll be shocked if they don't put up 50 on Mississippi State this year. It's going to be a rough Egg Bowl, man. It is not going to be a fun Egg Bowl. I am not looking forward to it whatsoever. I am no longer having fun. I was not having fun from the very start this year, and it's only getting worse. I just hope against hope that they get bowl eligible, and hope against hope that Zach Arnett takes over the defensive play calling, because it's not just, you don't just lose defensive lineman whose name escapes me right now, pretty solid, got drafted by Seattle, I want to say, this offseason, and Emmanuel Forbes. You don't just lose those two and then just all of a sudden become the worst defense in the entire SEC overnight. This is... it doesn't all fall squarely on coaching, but a lot of this falls squarely on the coaching staff and the defensive coaching staff. I hope Arnett takes over at some point here, and good luck to us, man. Good luck to us. Florida beat Vandy. We're not the worst team in the SEC. Vandy's still the worst team overall. We just got the worst defense, so that's something to hang your hat on. We're not the worst. We're just right there. We're right next to it. We're the second worst in the conference, I would say, pretty clearly. But we're right there. We're not quite last place, and that's really moral victories. Moral victories, folks. Florida 4-2 now. Very good home team. Very bad away team. So that's something to remember going forward right now. I think we are starting to really figure out what these teams are, and Florida, what they are is hapless on the road, very good at home. We should bet accordingly going forward. I was a hair away from betting this game and decided not to. I will be more respectful of Florida at home going forward because they covered with ease in this game. So that is it for last week's schedule. Let's look forward to the week that is coming. And this time, let's just go. Let's go conference to conference once again. Start with the ACC. Syracuse visiting Florida State. Sneaky spot. Syracuse got absolutely waxed by North Carolina last week, but they're still 4-2. They're not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination, and Florida State has struggled at times. So keep an eye on that one. Wake Forest versus Virginia Tech. Don't really worry about that. Louisville's at Pittsburgh. They should win that game, get to 7-0. That's on CW, by the way. Disgusting. Football should not be on CW. I've said disgusting a lot. A lot of things are disgusting today. I'll tell you what. But not a very noteworthy matchup there. Miami on the road at North Carolina. This will tell the tale for both teams. This is a big litmus test game for both teams. Miami coming off of an embarrassing loss to Georgia Tech that handed them their first loss of the season. Now they're going on the road to face North Carolina. North Carolina, if they win this game, they have put themselves squarely in the playoff conversation. They're number 12 in the country right now. They win against Miami. If they win convincingly, I would imagine they're going to be right up there in the top 10, right on the cusp of being in playoff contention. That is a big game to watch. and we'll have to see if I bet on that game. I have not looked closely enough at these slates to know exactly what I'm doing overall. I just know enough to give you a couple in a few minutes here. Duke is hosting NC State. Duke only favored by 3.5, and I've already put in a bet on that game. I'm still unsure whether I'm going to make it an official bet on the show or not. I've already placed a bet on Duke minus 3.5 though so far. Take that for what you will. And you know what? I'm just gonna stop pussyfooting around it here. Yeah, Duke is a bet for me this week, officially on the show. Minus 3.5. Book it. I'm putting it down. I already put in the bet myself this morning on Monday. So yeah, take that for what you will. They've been a really good team all year, and they're coming off a bye week too versus NC State at home. Like Duke in this one, Mike Elko's got the boys playing over there. Let's move on to the Big 12. West Virginia and Houston. This is for West Virginia to get to 5-1, by the way. They're on the road. Houston, not looking great at all this season. West Virginia only favored by 2.5, and I don't really know enough about them to take that money or not, but there you go. If you want to bet it, go right ahead. It is your own hard-earned money. I'm probably staying away from that one. Iowa State versus Cincinnati. That's kind of it's a lower Big 12 matchup. I'll just put it that way. Kansas is playing Oklahoma State. Sneaky spot for Kansas here, man. I'm staying away from this one. I mean, even the over. I don't know if Oklahoma State can score. This could be a Kansas blowout. This could be a close game that Kansas barely ekes out, and it could also go the other way on both accounts. I mean, I don't think Oklahoma State is going to blow out Kansas by any stretch of the imagination, but weird spot for Kansas right now, coming off a big win versus UCF. Jalen Daniels' health situation still up in the air. Watch this one. Could be a spot where Kansas could trip up, or could be a spot where they cement their ranked status going forward. We'll just have to wait and see what it holds for them. BYU taking on TCU. This is for BYU to get to 5-1. By the way, they're not world beaters, but they're just quietly chugging along. Could possibly be a dark horse in the mix for the Big 12 title. If they win against TCU, they got to start being taken a little bit seriously down the stretch here. The Fighting Keaton Slovises of BYU going out there to defeat the Horny Frogs and possibly put themselves in the conversation here. And you got K-State versus Texas Tech. No feel on that one at all, so we'll just keep it moving there. Okay, Big Ten. What do we got? Indiana, the most recent comer to just run into the buzzsaw of Michigan. Michigan's favored by 33.5. That's they could very easily cover that one, folks. Ohio State on the road at Purdue. Another game they should win comfortably, minus 19.5. So that might be a play. We'll have to wait and see on that one. No, not making any official picks. So like I said, gotta go back and look at the slate here. See what value lies in there across the board. Michigan State taking on Rutgers. Massachusetts taking on Penn State. Illinois taking on Maryland. Good bounce back spot for Maryland here at home. They're favored by 14. Wisconsin taking on Iowa. That's a game that over-under is 36.5, by the way. That's gross. That's disgusting. 36.5 for really any football game. College, NFL, 36.5 is a sad over-under, and they have every chance to hit the under in that one, too. Think about last week. Iowa had total of 34. 34 total last week, placing off against Purdue. They could very easily hit that under in this one. Iowa, Wisconsin, this may be a de facto Big Ten West title game, though. That'll be one to keep an eye on. I don't hate myself enough to watch that game, though. I'll be honest with you. That's just not. Also, I'm going to be at work. It starts at 4 p.m., so that's just that's not in the cards for me. I'm not about that life of watching Iowa, Wisconsin. That's going to be a rock fight if I've ever seen one. An absolute rock fight. Look for Braylon Allen to have a possible big game in this one. My nose, maybe if I just itch it really aggressively right now, it'll just stop. It'll just stop annoying the shit out of me. But yeah, we'll just keep it moving from there. Big Ten. Pac-12? I know Pac-12's got the biggest games of the week right now, and I'm not talking about Stanford, Colorado. No. I'm not talking about Cal, Utah, which, by the way, may be a little bit of a sneaky spot there for Utah. Cal's been playing well, but I digress. I'm talking first and foremost about the number 8 team in the country, Oregon, facing off against the number 7 team, Washington, facing off in Seattle at Washington's Husky Stadium. Michael Penix, Bo Nix, Bucky Irving, Dylan Johnson, Rome Odunze, all the players on both sides of the ball. Troy Franklin, for God's sake. I mean, we have got players up and down both of these rosters. This is a play for me, by the way, on the over. I believe I got it at, let me see here. 67.5, and it's actually come down to 67 on Caesars, it looks like. So get that number while it's hot. That's, that is one of my plays this week. I'm going heavy on the Pac-12 overs. By heavy, I mean I got 2 bets, both of them being Pac-12 overs, both of them being in the marquee matchups too, by the way. Another number that's come down. My goodness, I just didn't bet on at a good time for that. But Oregon, Washington, the marquee matchup of the week, the biggest playoff implication matchup of the week, and it's going to be a dandy, man. I expect a lot of scoring over there. Both defenses are solid. Oregon's probably got a little bit better defense, but that should be an absolute dandy. 2 high-end NFL prospects at quarterback, 2 really good offenses, 2 solid defenses. I am looking forward to seeing what that game has in store for us, folks. It is... Oh, we are getting right into the meat of college football season. It's just good times, man. Just good times right now. Arizona plays at Washington State. Another sneaky spot for Washington State. Going to need to bounce back well to avoid the upset here, because Arizona, not a bad team. They've been competitive with basically everyone this year. USC, Notre Dame. This is the other marquee matchup of the week. 2 big-time brands coming together to face off. Number 10, USC. Number 21, Notre Dame after that loss. Losing 2 of the last 3 games, by the way, versus Ohio State at home and then Louisville on the road last week. This is my other play. I got the number at over 62. It's all the way down to 60.5. So, I mean, by all means, go get it, folks. Just go get it and get yourself this number now. I feel like it's only going to rise from here. I can't imagine it's going to get lower. USC has been an over machine this year, and I'm riding that USC over train until it runs me into a brick wall somewhere down the road. And it might run me into a brick wall here, but I am willing to ride into that brick wall because they just gave up 41 to Arizona just last week. So, yeah, we're riding with the over there. USC on the road at Notre Dame. This could be a spot where USC drops one. I have a feeling that Notre Dame is going to slow down USC's offense just enough to eke this one out. They're at home. It's a good spot. They're pissed off after losing versus Louisville last week. Trying to take out some aggression on a historic rival there with USC. Caleb Williams is spectacular, and I expect him to have at least a solid game. By the way, Caleb Williams, 22 touchdowns, 1 interception so far this year. He is every bit as dominant as he was last year. Again, too early to talk about the Heisman race, but as far as the Heisman race is concerned right now, he's still probably my front runner right now, if I had to say. That should be a dandy of a matchup there. Notre Dame favored by 2.5. I got no lean. I mean, I guess I lean Notre Dame in this one to pull it out. I'm not putting my money on that. I am still putting my money on the over 60.5 now. So go ahead and get that while you can. Not the most marquee matchup as far as brands are concerned, but UCLA, Oregon State, ranked matchup here. UCLA taking that defense on the road to face off against Oregon State. Oregon State favored by 4 in this one. This should be a dandy of a matchup that not enough people are going to see because USC is going to be on at the same time. I'm sure there's really other games to look at as well, but that's USC Notre Dame's probably going to be the dominant one there in that time slot. 8 p.m. for this UCLA Oregon State game. Thank God there's no 10:30 kickoff in the Pac-12 this week. They just hate the hardworking man that has to work on a Sunday. I'll tell you what, man. But not this time around, man. Not this time around. I'll be able to watch the whole slate before I go to bed. How about that for a novel concept? But UCLA, we'll have to see what to do. Dante Moore facing off against a suspect Oregon State defense. Could possibly be a big game. Could turn into a possible shootout. But UCLA's defense, maybe not gonna let them do that. That should be a dandy of a matchup. There's a bunch of, there's three, maybe even four if California Utah turns into a barn burner. Really good games this week in the Pac-12, and it's only going to get better from here, man. All those ranked teams are facing off against each other down the stretch. Just a dandy of a season. The swan song in the Pac-12 has just been been a beautiful symphony thus far, and it's going to reach a crescendo here over the next couple weeks. Keep watching that. Let's go to the SEC. Georgia's facing Vandy. Prepare for pain. Arkansas facing off against Alabama. Also, probably prepare for pain if you're Arkansas. Texas A&M going into Tennessee. That should be a fun matchup. I'm not sure how good Tennessee is, but playing at home in Neyland, they will have they'll have every advantage that you could ask for there, and I think they're looking to kind of, they're still 4-1, just that one loss to Florida, so they could really salvage things down the stretch in this season. Look for Tennessee to come out here fighting. Maybe Texas A&M has a little bit more on their hands than they can handle. I think Joe Milton's got his hands full with this Texas A&M defense, though. I wouldn't be surprised if this one becomes a little bit more of a low-scoring contest than what you may expect coming in. Over-unders at 56, and I may even lean the under on that one. I think this could be a close contested, low-scoring game, really kind of similar to an NFL sort of matchup there as far as the scoring is concerned. That should be a solid matchup though. Texas A&M back against the wall, wounded animal mode. See how they come out in this one. Florida's going on the road to South Carolina, and if it wasn't South Carolina, I'd probably bet on South Carolina in this one, or bet on the home team in this one. But since it is South Carolina, I'm staying away from that one. I think it has all the makings of an absolute shit show. Florida on the road, South Carolina being South Carolina. It is Cocktober, which makes me lean towards South Carolina, but you never know, man. That just feels like a chaotic matchup, if I had to say. Auburn goes on the road to LSU. Over-under is 61.5, and I did just say that I'm going to take the over in pretty much every LSU game going forward. Auburn's so bad on offense, I'm going to skip this week, huh? I think I'm going to skip this week. Auburn's just not... Peyton Thorne ain't it. Hugh Freeze needs to get his guys in there on offense. He's a good offensive coach. Don't need to worry about the off-the-field stuff, but he's a good offensive coach. He'll probably get him rolling at some point. Ain't right now, though. And LSU favored by 11 in this one. In Death Valley... feels like a good number. I just don't trust LSU's defense to let them cover that one, so I will stay away. Missouri going on the road to Kentucky. Kentucky looking to bounce back after that just plastering by Georgia this past week. Missouri coming off their first loss of the season as well, just ripping my heart out against LSU. Brady Cook threw his first 2 interceptions in about a millennia or so. Devin Leary not looking great this season, but this will be this will be a good bounce back spot for Missouri. Both these teams are just hankering for a win, though, to stay alive in the SEC East. So expect a spirited matchup there, and as such, I will stay away. Probably lean Missouri in this one. I think they're a little bit better football team than Kentucky, quite frankly. But not enough of a lean to put my hard-earned money on it, and I would encourage you to do the same on that one. Unless you got a strong feeling, then by all means, go for it. It's a free country. But with that's it. That's all. We're done, folks. That is it for this episode of Unqualified Analysis. I said keep it to a tight hour 15. We are going on an hour 40. So I'm bad at this. What else is new? But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. We do this thing twice a week. College football on Tuesday, NFL on not Wednesday. I record on Wednesday, comes out on Thursday. Subscribe wherever you're listening to or watching this, be it YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, wherever you get the podcast. Just go ahead and subscribe. Share it if you want to too. That'd be cool as well. Follow me on all my socials, basically just Twitter, X, whatever the hell it's called nowadays. Maybe Elon Musk will just make it 420 Blaze It, because he's a real memer, that Elon Musk, a real zinger that everyone likes all around. I digress on that front. Either way, his stupid app that I'm on, X, Twitter, whatever the hell he decides to call it in a given week, it's Caleb Verzak. Link will be in the description, so you have to spell my fucked up Eastern Bloc name. Shoot me a DM if you want to contact the show, if you want to contribute in any way, shape, or form. If you don't want to shoot me a DM though, got an email, unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. That'll be in the description as well. With that, though, thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, I've got no clue what I'm talking about. One thing I learned this week, though, and this may be something I brought up on the podcast before, but worth reiterating, the term government cheese is an actual literal thing that the government has. The government currently has 1.4 billion pounds of cheese just sitting in storage in order to regulate the price of dairy and make sure it doesn't skyrocket. That's a wild amount of cheese. They just got cheese caves all over the continental United States. There's your fun fact of the day. I'm going to go watch some football. It's probably kicking off right now as I'm speaking, so I'm going to just hop off and see y'all on Thursday, folks. Take it easy.